That's so better than hello, soul family.
Hello, intergalactic human beings. Hello, beautiful souls. Samantha here.
Maria here.
We are making another Raw Talk video. We should probably change it from Raw Talk because Raw just sounds like I want to eat meat. But
I know that word raw. It's just like
yeah, I mean it's better than what's the other word? I can't even think of
moist.
it right now. Yes, thank you. That word. Total opposite. Oh, actually,
Just moist
raw meat
talk.
moist. Right? Moist talk here.
Wet talk.
You want to talk? No, we're good.
Yeah, no.
Hello, intergalactic, multidimensional human beings. If you don't believe you're multidimensional, keep watching.
Keep watching.
Because we all are multidimensional beings, and I never knew that until the last couple years when I realized how limitless we were. And then I met Maria and realized literally how limitless we are. So, what is this talk going to be about tonight, Miss Maria? Hello, I
So
believe you.
we are going to start talking about ego and higher self and discernment. Sam and I decided that this will not all be covered in one video because it is something I've been learning for the last 4 years, but definitely something that all of our clients ask along the way, how to really discern or decipher between the two energies of ego and higher self, which essentially are the energies that us lovely multidimensional humans are trying to balance within this body. So Sam and I are kind of just going to briefly start with how we've learned discernment, some maybe like easy tips to start like navigating and just really becoming aware of the two energies within you. Um, yeah, so you want me to start? You want to go? I'll start.
Go ahead, love.
All right.
I have Lily snoozing on my leg.
There you go.
So I'm going to drink my lavender lemon water.
Love it. All right. So, ego, to me, I've heard it been referred to as like false sense of like personality. I do feel ego is personality in the sense that that's not really who we are. We've kind of adopted our personality based on our life experiences. So ego really lives and thrives on fear. And so a lot of personality traits come from these experiences, traumas that we've had throughout our lives. And then the ego kind of creates these characteristics to protect us. So I don't view the ego as a bad thing. Depending on, what spiritual teacher you're listening to, there's a lot of talk out there about the ego being a bad thing. And to me, it's just part of this human skin suit. It's part of being on the human journey. It's part of the human brain, the human avatar. Um, it is a portion of us that did not always exist to the level of fear that it lives in now. And certainly, Sam and I could get into the seeding of humanity in another video, but I can briefly tell you that the ego mindset came from this like reptilian race. So you can think I'm crazy if you want, but look it
He
up.
ain't crazy.
So the reptilians, who also were part of seeding humanity, came up with this fun little part of the brain that's very analytical, very judgmental, and again, essentially it lives in fear, right? So it's always trying to protect the human. It's not, which is why I say it's really not a bad thing. But when we're unaware of the ego, it drives us. It unconsciously drives this body, meaning it drives all of our decisions. So when you can understand that it lives in fear and it's driving us, then oftentimes it's causing us to make fear-based decisions in life. And when we make choices based off of fear, it's not that it's right or wrong. It just doesn't deliver us the highest timeline or our highest potential, we'll say, when we're making fear-based decisions. And what happens is we get caught in these like karmic cycles. People have a very different views on what karma is, but for me, I just see literally everything as energy. And karma is just the returning of whatever energy you're putting out, right? So our thoughts carry an energy, our emotions carry an energy. Based on what we're literally broadcasting out to the universe, we're going to attract certain experiences, situations, repeated patterns in our life if we don't see the lesson in it. And so ego will keep us, to me, what I've learned, it keeps us trapped in like a loop. This loop that like we just unconsciously run through most of our life because again we're making these choices based off of fear and control. So when you're starting to kind of wake up to this ego aspect of yourself, for me, I just started really becoming aware of, first of all, my thoughts, my emotions, and like my patterns, my behaviors. And then I would question like why I would do certain things and what was really that like driving energy behind it. What was like the intention? Was it fear or was it love? And when you can start just getting comfortable with reading the energy of love and fear, they feel very, very different in the body. To me, fear feels very constrictive. It causes pain in my body. It causes me to like close up, tense up like this, where love is very expansive, right? So the ego will keep us in this loop where the higher self is always guiding us our whole life. It's that intuition that you hear people talk about that is a very gentle, quiet voice. And it's always sort of it's guiding you from the sense of like a heart space, compassion, but it's also kind of testing you to step out of your comfort zone, but it does it in a very, very gentle way. It doesn't pressure you. I feel like you said something like this in one of your videos, Sam, like, and it, I was like, oh, that has to be in our talk because it was such a simple way of kind of discerning. Like, ego is very pressuring. It's always on a time crunch. It's always like, you got to do it now. You got to do it now. Because again, that's control, that's fear. Where higher self will just like drop you the guidance, like it drops a seed, but it doesn't push you. It's just like, here you go. Like, you can do this. You can do this. And it will keep planting the seed, and the seed will keep coming up, but you won't feel this like, this pressure really. The higher self lives in this sort of energy of trust, so it knows no matter what path we choose, we're going to be okay. um, so higher self for me, as I start really trying to embody her more, she is pushing me out of my comfort zone, but in a very gentle way and in a very like empowering way. So even though I'm coming out of my comfort zone, meaning I'm stepping out of what the ego perceives to be comfortable, controlled, which is an illusion anyways, the higher self guides me more and I listen to it more. And although the choices may feel scary because they're new, they're still there's still like an excitement to do it. Like there's still this drive, this passion to want to do it, to want to break free from that fear that the ego keeps us very, very unconsciously in. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I'll start it. If you want to jump in first.
I don't even know where to jump in because I was muting on and off because the sound.
Wind chimes. Well, I actually like the wind chimes.
I know, but I didn't want to interrupt your talk because Zoom kind of stinks sometimes. Our higher self is the most loving aspect of who we are, and it doesn't have any judgment. It doesn't cause conflict within us. What causes conflict is when our higher self is coming in and is trying to guide us, and that's our intuition. And our egoic, conditioned self is like, whoa, 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 that feels uncomfortable. That's not safe. We have to protect, we have to protect. And that's where the conflict comes in. And I've been learning a lot lately that the more I in tune fully to my higher self, the more peace I feel and the more flow I feel, the more in body I feel, which is very odd for me to say because you're going to hear me say this a lot. But I've never been in my body my entire life. And I didn't know that until this year, even though I've known Maria for, I think, 3 years now, right? I, like she said, she feels it. It's in her body. I feel people, but I'm not in my body. I'm now learning to be my body. So when my higher self is talking, I'm letting my body move and feel my higher self, and there's no conflict. It's literally like it feels free. It feels like I'm living for the first time ever. And it feels like I'm a kid again. And the second I start feeling ugh, or angry or upset, I know that it's my egoic, conditioned self coming in and being like, "You're having too much fun. Mm-mm-mm. Remember how unsafe that is? Remember people didn't like you when you were having fun?" And so I don't know, but that's a huge discernment piece of
That's
higher
huge.
self-love
Yeah.
versus egoic self, right? Our egoic self is not, it's not bad. It's us. But we need to befriend it because we have our entire life let our higher self move to the side and without knowing, it's unconscious, and let our egoic conditioned side come in and play the whole freaking game. And it's not, it doesn't control it. It doesn't have the controller because there's in our ego, there's so many parts. Like I, there's it's you take like a Maria loves doing puzzles. Like she does like 5,000 piece puzzles, right?
She's like, ugh.
God bless my concentration to do that. It'll take me a lifetime, but I'm gonna try it actually. Challenge
Very
accepted.
meditating. It's
Yeah,
actually a form of meditation for me. Yeah.
challenge accepted. Um, see, my higher self just challenged me. You can do a puzzle, 5,000 pieces. See, right? Didn't I didn't?
Exactly.
I don't even know what I was saying, but
Oh, the puzzles. How the ego has
oh
multiple
yes,
parts,
thank you.
essentially. Yeah.
Yin and yang. Thank you. So our conditioned self, our ego self, once we're born, we are learning from everybody else is in our external environment because we don't know how to survive on our own because we're just like this new little baby, right? And so at each person we encounter, each stimuli that comes into our environment, each situation, everything causes a part within us. And that then develops into behaviors, to patterns, to emotions, and personality traits, right? Can you even see me? There's so much
I can. With all
going.
your light rods.
Um, but our higher self has one main trait, and that's love. And our higher self never wants us to be anything less than. Do I need to go inside? Is that too loud?
No.
No, okay. Um, and as I'm learning to really embody all parts of me and really learning how to fully, truly, divinely listen to my higher self for me and not just for my clients and for other people, I am learning how all of these parts of me are so beautiful, but they've felt not beautiful. And they felt that joy is not okay. Love's not okay. Safety's not okay. Christ, I didn't even know what safety was. Okay. Like I have a whole new meaning of it. But our higher self knows that this might trigger people. God is in each one of us. God loves us. We are God. We are creator. We are source. We are love. We are angels. We are magic. We are infinity amounts of limitless energy.
Multi-dimensional beings.
That's why we started out. Hello, galactic dimensional humans. um, and so when you're ever in a state of not feeling joy, that's okay. That could be another topic, right? So joy, I always thought was what other people were experiencing. When I would see other people laugh, when I would see other people dance or party, I'm like, oh, that's joy. I have to do that. That's joy. Like, and I was chasing a joy, and I realized none of that was actually bringing me joy because as soon as like that person left or that stimulus left, I wasn't feeling joy. Joy should be everlasting because that's what our higher self is. Our ego, our conditioned self, the part that all the parts we need to befriend, they're afraid of joy. Because every time they had joy, something external happened that made them shut down the joy. So that's why they protect us. That's why we need to love them. But that's also the hardest part of ascending or awakening or your kundalini freaking rising or whatever you want to call it. Because the more we grow and learn and the more we connect to our higher self, all of those parts from not just this lifetime, but all of the lifetimes that have experienced any type of trauma, from as little as someone screaming at you to telling you you're too loud, or to stubbing your toe, to a car accident, to death. So horrific things like rape, and right, there's all these levels. Your brain only knows one level, and that's unsafe.
Yep.
That's it. They don't know the extremes of trauma. So as you're ascending and you're growing and you're connecting more to your higher self, all of these parts start speaking up, and they're freaking terrified. I didn't swear. Oh my god. They're so terrified of love.
Yep.
They're
That's
so,
the irony of it.
yeah.
Fear fears love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so crazy about it. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's this has come through in some of our meditations, but it's it's the fear. It's that unsafe feeling which stems from fear, and fear is so afraid of love.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam and I have literally witnessed this in what some people would refer to maybe as like depossessions, demonic stuff, demonic entities, right? Like we don't, she and I don't play that game. It's fear or love consciousness, basically. That's what it comes down to. And so we've encountered some very fearful, dark energies, not in work with clients, just in our own work together and different things. And instead of banishing the fear, instead of meeting the fear with our fear, we met it with compassion and love. And by doing that, we literally watched these energies morph from big, scary, like dark things, and they just like morphed down into like a child. And it's wild when you experience something like that because it's proof of how potent both these energies are. And literally that's what I believe the earth plane, that's the duality of the earth plane. It's the love and the fear, but they all still come from the same consciousness. It's just like how I explained in another video. It's one single light beam, right? Like, and all the way up here is the love and all the way down here is the fear, but it's the same source. And so when you can really meet all the way down here with that energy, that high vibrational energy from up here, when you can meet it, that's it automatically, it naturally starts to just shift it upward because it's all from the same source. So it's this, again, this illusion of duality here. But the two energies are very potent, and the fear just wants to be loved, but it's afraid of love. It's afraid to trust in love, and that's what love is it's trust. It's unwavering trust. So it knows it's always safe. That's why the higher self is never in fear, because they know that we're always safe. We're safe to feel and experience everything. Every scary thing here, on some level, our souls know what we came down to encounter, experience, and grow from. So the higher self, that's why the higher self will always gently guide you out of your comfort zone, because your higher self knows you're safe, right? And it's the ego that is still super attached to the past. That's the problem with the ego, is that it is attached to the past in the sense that it operates off of all of your past experiences. That's why we have thoughts, that's why we have emotions. They're byproducts of our experiences. So the ego tends to remember what we would say the negative. The brain holds on to the negative so much longer than the positive. So oftentimes, even how we remember the past is not even 1,000% of how it played out. It's our brain is holding on to that low vibration because, again, the ego is so afraid of that happening again. That's never going to happen to me again, is what the ego is saying. So now we need to protect ourselves, right? Like now we need to control everything. But the irony of it is that like the ego is striving for control and it thinks it has control, but it never has control. It thinks it does. But none of us have control about what happens out there, right? Like we only have control over us and our way of being, our ways of feeling, how we perceive the world. That's what we have control over. And I kid you not, it sounds like that doesn't give us a lot of control, but it gives us so much. When you start to realize how much we're really creating our own reality, it's like, wow, I had this power my whole life and I unconsciously allowed my ego to control me.
Yeah. And not trying to get into what's happening in the world, but this is a huge thing, what's happening in the world right now. And for the sake of not being banned,
Yeah.
COVID, because I knew you spelled it the other day. But not just that, everything on the media, like mainstream, right? I've been having numerous talks with people lately who are like, well, this. It's like, I don't watch it. And they're like, what do you mean? You have to stay in tuned. I was like, yes, I am in tuned to a point because I am seeing what it's doing to the collective, and they are living in a very stressed state. They are they're scared. They're in that fear, right? Meanwhile, I'm in love. I'm in love. And yes, do I fear around things? Yes, of course. Like we're humans, right? That's a skin suit. That's that raw meat, right? But I can control knowing that when I trust that my higher self, this part of me that's like, hey, I've already made a path for you. It's already set up. Like, just trust me. It's going to be okay. The more I trust that and I just keep telling myself that rather than like, oh my God, gas can be $10. Oh my God, there's a recession. Oh my God, we're going to all die from monkey virus. Oh my God, all this stuff. I'd rather steer this way and be like, all right, I'm going to trust this. It's hard,
Yep.
but it's so much more loving than the one that every day I wake up and I am scared. My body is contracted. I have to turn the news on to see like what the next freaking thing is, right? All these distractions out there. And it's like, we all have the answers. Our higher self has the answers. Our ego feeds off of these distractions. Our ego feeds off of this fear because love to it is so unsafe. Because the majority, probably 99% of us, maybe probably 100% of us have had some sort of moment in our life where we have felt unloved.
Mm-hmm.
And the second we feel unloved, we are scared. And that does not go away. That stays in us until we face it and we change that relationship with it. So when people are telling me about all the fear they have around them, my heart goes out to them, right? Maria and I give tools, but it's a matter of you trusting if your higher self and trusting in you is more powerful than all these external things that are just feeding your hurt child.
Your
That's really
shadows.
what it's doing. It's hurt child.
Yep. Yep.
We are not born with a feeling of fear. Yes, when we're in the womb, there's totally energy exchanges. Yes, completely, right? But we don't even have beliefs yet. We feel the energy, yes. But it's we have a choice as we grow up to decide what we feed our energy to and what we allow come into us. And the more we are like, I'm just gonna shut that off. It'd be really cool to watch that show, but like, you know what? I never feel good after I watch it, so I'm not gonna watch it because it's discerning. This whole thing is about discerning, right? I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's discerning between what feels good and what doesn't. If something doesn't feel good, it's because it's feeding our egoic self or our conditioned self, or that part of us is like, well, it's feeding that. And then whatever feels good, our higher self's like, yes, this is, yes, this is in alignment with you. And when I don't mean an immediate fix, I
Yeah.
mean something that's prolonged.
Yes.
I don't mean something like you go out and you party, right? And then the next day you feel like shit, which I've had many years of. But it's because I was chasing fun. I was chasing joy because I didn't know that joy um, existed inside of me. And that's why Maria and I are huge advocates on empowerment of self, because joy and love and safety live within thyself by connecting to higher self, um, and co-regulation like her and I are doing. And we want to empower all of you, if you're listening, to know that it exists and it's possible, because we are born in a world that doesn't think that's possible. We are born into a world that immediately has us feel um, our power is outside of ourselves, correct?
Right. Yep. From the get-go. That's the system that we talk about. It's such a codependent way we've been brought up to not only look to the system for answers, but then we blame the system, right? Like it's like this whole everything. So that's so disempowering. So now we're blaming everything external to us. So where's our power, right? We're giving it away. Now we're also putting all of our faith in something that doesn't love us. Like no one and nothing is ever going to love us the way that we need to love us. Like that's where the love needs to come from, is from ourself, right? And like Sam was saying, every single one of us has experienced feeling unloved from someone or something external, and that's what causes this like need within us on some level to need to be accepted, need to be part of something, need to be loved, need to feed that need, not realizing that only us, only ourselves, our individual selves can really truly fill that void, because we are love. And when we get very caught in the ego, which is again not love, it's fear, it it traps us. And it really, sort of like losing my train of thought, but when you talked about and I'm glad you kind of like clarified, because when you're saying like I've said that to people, like what feels good, right? Like so what feels good. Hello, Lily. How's that
She
feel?
does feel good.
Because I've used that sort of same explanation to people, like the higher self, like it feels like good, right? But good is kind of like it's like a very generalized adjective, right? Because a lot of the stuff that the ego wants us to do feels good to the ego, right? Like you're saying, going out partying, like getting really hammered, like smoking a joint, like all those things feel good because the ego has conditioned us to believe that it feels good. But really, those things are numbing something.
Yes.
They are again a distraction. They're numbing us from what we kind of need to sit with and feel and face and think about. So when you talk about feeling good, you did clarify. It's more about, like, to me, that higher self. It's like what feels empowering, what feels new, inspiring. Like, I use new a lot because I feel like the majority of us have operated off the ego our whole life, right? Until we start becoming
Uncomfortable.
aware that the ego is even anything. So when you start becoming aware, the guidance that you're getting from your higher self is often not old guidance, right? Like the old guidance is the higher self is the ego. That's the pattern that it wants to keep you in. The higher self is giving you new guidance, which is why it feels sometimes uncomfortable and scary to follow it. So when we say good, yes, it doesn't always feel great. Um, to the ego, but to your body and to your like your whole essence, it feels inspiring. It feels empowering. It feels exciting. And I can use my own personal experience with leaving my job. And I use this a lot for my clients because it's a very it's a real life experience that I think a lot of people are probably facing these last couple of years too. Um, but it's just sort of a simple explanation of how I was really able to discern a decision I wanted to make. And this happened a year ago. And, I've mentioned it before, but I was a nurse in the system for many years, 12 years. And as I started awakening, 4 years ago and learning energy and learning myself, I was really feeling like the system no longer resonated with me. It was starting to become harder to show up for my job. And mind you, my last job, I worked from home. So, and when I say show up, I mean, I didn't want to do it anymore. Like it didn't feel good to me anymore. It didn't feel good in the sense that it was in alignment with what I was to be doing here because I don't believe in the majority of the healthcare system. And so to still be sort of like perpetuating that to clients and patients, it didn't feel right to me anymore. It just didn't. I knew it's like I know better now, so I do better and I want to teach better. And I couldn't, it was becoming very hard for me to be part of it because it just felt so unaligned. And that was a hard thing because I thought I wanted to be in, like, being a nurse was one of the things that I had a lot of pride about it, if I'm going to be honest. I was a damn good nurse. For somebody that, if any of you watched my self confidence video, I have not had self confidence my whole life. But when it came to work, I felt like I was a badass nurse. That was like the only place that I felt confident. And so to start coming to this like realization the last few years, like, oh my God, I don't think I want to be a nurse anymore. That starts to cause me to question my identity, right? Because again, we are programmed from a very young age to start thinking about what we want to be when we grow up and what we want to be as our career. And that is so skewed, but that's how we've been brainwashed and programmed. So when you are no longer your job, your career, who are you? When you're no longer somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, so like who are you when we strip away all of these labels that the ego thrives off of? It's the ego that labels these things and attaches to them, right? When you start pulling those labels away, you start really going, who am I, right? Like who the F am I? And so for me, it took about a good year of like being really feeling like in disalignment doing my job. And I remember it clear as day. It was March of 2021. My other best friend Allison was here visiting, and we were talking. She's also a nurse and going through a lot of the same things that Sam and I are. And she is making huge changes in her life. So shout out to you, girl. Love ya. Woohoo! Nurses changing healthcare. But she was here visiting, and we were talking about being part of the system, and it just feeling so like blah, unaligned and just not good anymore. And I remember coming in and doing a meditation, and I came out of the meditation, and I was like, "Well, shit, I'm quitting my job." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm quitting my job." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I don't even know why. I'm like, I just did a meditation and I came out feeling amazing and I want to quit my job. So I gave my notice like that next week, but I was in a contracted position to the end of June. So I wanted to do right by the company that was very, very good to me. And I told them that I would not be renewing my contract in June and that I was starting this healing business and I was going to go in full steam and blah, blah, blah. So I'm all excited. I give them my notice and they were really good about it. And then they come back to me like a couple weeks later and they offer me like this golden opportunity of basically being part-time, per diem, make more money. Like, please, will you stay? Like, how can we get you to stay? And mind you, I worked from home, so I had in nursing realm, I had a very cushy nursing job. I worked from home, and I'm not gonna lie, I made damn good money, damn good money. So when they dangled that little carrot, I was like, oh God, now what do I do? Like, first of all, I never expected to even have that offered to me. So I was very humbled by it, but then I was also very confused because me being a very planner my whole life, like make smart choices, make sure you have backup plans to backup plans, you never quit a job without having a job, like all those very rational. I lived very rational, right? That's ego. Rational is ego. I lived rational, so I was safe, right? Like, again, to keep myself safe, I have to be rational. We have to be rational in our decisions if we want to be safe. So I was looking at it at first from a rational standpoint, and I was like, whoa, I mean, they're basically telling me I can work when I want to, and I can still make good money. That way, it gives me time to work on my business. So, of course, I'm weighing out the pros and cons from a very rational standpoint. It made all the sense in the world for me to take this offer, and I couldn't give them an answer right away because I was like, all right, I've really been working on discernment, and now I don't know what decision is coming from my higher self or my ego. So I was like, I have to go into a journey, a meditation, and ask. And the difference with journeying and meditation, and Sam and I will explain this in another thing, but you really set an intention that you want like guidance on, right? Instead of just like, I'm just going to meditate to just kind of clear my mind. Like, I went in with an intention, and my intention was, please show me, because spirit is never going to tell me you should or shouldn't. Again, that would be ego. Spirit's going to show me my paths and what, based on what path I choose, what my potential outcome is. So the way I worded my intention question was, please show me the path that would be following my old egoic patterns, and please show me the path that would be more in alignment with my soul and my higher self. And I was in the journey for all of probably 2 minutes before not even, because there's really no time in there, but it was very quick, and it was very clear about that if I had taken their offer, I was still doing it from an old pattern, from ego, because I was really putting out to the universe that I don't trust what Sam and I are doing, that I don't trust in our business, that I don't trust in me, and that I need that money that I was making to survive. And so I was like, okay, that's all I needed to know. So I told them no, and I left my job almost an entire year ago. It was June 30th. And I have not looked back since. And I did say it in my last video, I am not making nearly the money I was making.
Yet.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing of it. So we talk about fears coming up, and there's a lot of collective fear right now, obviously, financially, because of what we're seeing that's happening, right? And like Sam's saying, I don't feed all of that, but I'm very aware of how that's going to continue to play out. And it's like what you said in that other video you did the other day, like all that external noise and chaos, it's going to get louder, and it's going to get worse from the perspective of the human that fears all of these bad things that are happening. But from those of the perspective of those of us that are very aware and awake of the higher picture of all of this, we understand it has to. This is shadows coming to the surface. This is the collective shadows, and this is everybody's individual shadows. So it is like, think of Earth is on a full-blown ego trip. Like, full-blown ego trip. So all of that, 100,000% is going to get worse and louder. It is. And the point of it is to continue to wake up those that still are very, very unaware. And it's also for those of us that have been now really doing a lot of this very conscious inner work, ego work, shadow work. We're sort of being tested in a way, or given an opportunity to see where we're at in our growth, to see if we're going to feed these distractions. Because when we really start to understand that our thoughts and our emotions are creating the collective reality, we no longer want to give our energy to those things. We are aware that they're happening, but I don't want to give my energy to it anymore. And I certainly don't want to give it fear, because that just makes it blow up even more. And I cannot control the gas prices, the inflation. And people, I'm sorry, but it's going to get worse. And so I also understand that my guidance from my higher self, pushing me out of my job, my high paying job, a year before all this happening, like that's no coincidence, right? Like I'm prepared, like I've been prepared by my higher self for what is coming, just as Sam has. Like all of us that have been waking up over the last 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 years, our higher self has been preparing us for this external chaos that's going to continue to unravel and get louder and get worse in the perspective of humans that are very much attached to what's happening. So I feel like this talk on higher self and ego is very important right now because she's like on a full blown ego trip. That's the best way I can say it. And when you can start to discern these energies inside of you, you can look externally and start to realize, where are you giving your energy? Are you feeding it to fear, or are you feeding it to love? Because it feels very different. And you feel very disempowered and you feel very drained when you're giving your energy to fear.
Hmm.
It's draining. It's painful. Like it's like you're exhausted, because that's what it does. It drains you. Where the higher self, the soul, the spirit, that unconditional love, it fills you. It empowers you. It like ignites you. So to me, that's like when you're really going through this discernment process, first start becoming aware of how those energies feel inside of you and where your fears are coming out. And when you're making decisions in your life, every single day to day choices, just stop and say, like, is this a pattern? Is this an old belief that's driving me to do it this way? Because if it is, then it's an ego based decision. And again, it's not to say it's right or wrong, but it's, do you want to continue to live unconsciously controlled by fear, or do you want to start stepping into your power and following your higher self? Because when you start to really do that and embody that energy in your body, you feel free. It's freeing.
It's very freeing, extremely freeing. And Maria left her job almost 1 year ago. I left my job in November. I'm not going to go into my whole story right now, but because I think that has numerous layers, just like Maria's has numerous layers. We could talk about hours about both of our journeys. But hers is literally to like let you guys know, like her higher self talked to her in a meditation, like came to her. She felt her higher self, and she was like, I can't deviate from this. Like I need to listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, of course, fear strikes in at some point, right? And there is like when I left my job, lots of fear, like so much fear, because there was a lot of shit going on. And you work so hard, like a master's degree, all this stuff. But when Maria just said about how empowering it is and inspiring it is to push past the fear, like that's healing.
Oh,
And I
it's
remember when I was supposed to work the day after um, Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving Eve, was it? No, Thanksgiving night, I worked. The next day I was supposed to go back. I couldn't. I texted Maria. I was in my maneuver, right? I was in it. And I was like, okay, what do I do? Don't know what to do. And she's like, what's your higher self saying? I'm like, well, not go to work. Like, long story short, I was actually terrified to start my new journey. And I was in contraction mode, but I was also in a grief stage
mm-hmm.
of I just lost, or I'm switching, I'm shifting.
Your perspective.
Yeah, 7 chapters of nursing career. Like 6 taking care of oncology patients. Like who am I now? Like what do I do? But I knew who I was, and that was love. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like, yes, I started the business before Maria. Like I was like, Maria, come on, you're my sister, come into the business. But I didn't know like my niche. I didn't know anything. I just knew my higher self has been guiding me over and over and over again. So much that I wasn't listening, that numerous meditations and numerous people for a year before Maria got it in hers, you got to leave the hospital. And then when Maria left hers, I was like, oh shit. Like I gotta leave mine. But I had to do it when I was ready.
Yep.
And I had to do it when my higher self felt like, not my higher self, my the parts that were ready to transform are ready. And you're never ready. You're never ready.
Your ego will never be ready.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. Your
That,
higher self's always like, game on. Ego's like, maybe not this lifetime. Let's try to do it next next
Mhm.
time around.
But what I learned is when you make those courageous, imperfect actions, whew,
Yeah.
like heart open, life changes. And those are the scariest things to take. But your higher self is like, trust me, trust me, trust me. And as much as I trust it all the time, the other last Saturday I had a fair and I texted Maria, oh my God, the voices in my head, my ego, blah blah blah. And she's like, spirit got you. Spirit got you. Trust in it. And I was like, you're right. So I called up earth to give me energy. I called in spirit to give me energy. I called in my higher self to give me energy. Because I was like, my voices, my egoic conditioned self just want love. So higher self, show them love. And like it was the most empowering, that is a huge spider right there. That was sorry. That was the most empowering thing. And they keep happening because you don't let those voices control you, because the more they control you, they actually live in more fear.
Yep.
The more you show them love, the less fear they live in, and the more they work with you, and you give them a different role.
Yep.
And those courageous, imperfect actions are your higher self guiding it. And when Maria and I talk about trust, it cannot be put into a number. The amount of trust you have to put into spirit, source, self love, and your higher self is limitless.
Phyllis.
It's infinity and beyond,
Mm-hmm.
because your parts in your nervous system, which is, like we said, lifetimes of parts, um, will always try and simmer you down.
Yep.
But that flame that your higher self, and the second you tell all of your parts, hey, we got this, it's like, we do, and then you do.
Yep.
And it's beautiful. And it is so empowering. And yes, Maria and I don't have kids. So for the people that have kids and you keep getting these intuitive hits, like you should do this, you should do that. It's like, yes, you should. But when your higher self is coming in, giving you those intuitive hits, it means they're setting you up. Start paying attention to the signs. Start paying attention to the emails. Start paying attention to like the billboards, because spirit's talking to you like, hey, do this, learn this, learn this, learn this, that are all part of your path. It's a matter of paying attention to them. And I would have not done branches of vibrational healing if I didn't listen to those signs. If I wasn't like, oh, there's a mediumship circle tomorrow night. I don't know if I'm a medium, but someone told me I was. Screw it. I'm going to go to it. I prayed, and I didn't even know what praying was. I would sit there on my drive and be like, all right, whoever, let's do this circle. I want to impress people, because I was in that egoic stage of, I want to be better or at least equivalent to others, because I didn't know anything about spirit. But I kept going to things that I had no idea what the hell I was going to. But each thing I did was a courageous, imperfect action that has led me to love myself and to advocate for those who are afraid to walk into a room where there's a bunch of people who know everything and you don't know a thing. And be like, I'm here, I don't know anything, but I'm ready to learn. Because we are here to learn, but more so we're here to remember who we are and who our higher self is. And our higher self is pure divine love. It is not fear. So if you wake up in fear, check in and ask, what do I need today? What do I need to love myself today? And start doing that every day, and you're going to start hearing your higher self giving you clues so you can live a life. Yes, you might not make as much money at first, but you know what? the more you follow those courageous, imperfect actions, the money comes because it's energy, it's exchange, it's love. And you don't look back, like Maria said in her other video. Like, I don't look back because I'm learning about myself. I'm happy. I'm growing, and I'm not stuck in something that feels uncomfortable. If you're in anything that feels uncomfortable, you probably shouldn't be in it. And that is the huge discernment piece. What makes you feel uncomfortable? Is it your higher self or is it your ego?
Right.
And Maria and I had this conversation before because with our clients, and I was like, I was stern with a client. I was very stern, and I was nervous to be stern. But I realized the part that was nervous was my conditioned ego self,
Yeah.
because it wants to be loved, and it's in fear of not being loved. So it wouldn't have never been stern. My higher self was the stern part and was like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what you should probably reevaluate or reflect on or see within yourself. What's the mirror? And that's when I learned, like, oh my God, my higher self is a boss. It's a badass lover. And I love it.
It's true. And it's so true because again, there's like this, I know for me too, and that's what I've really learned. And it kind of goes with my self-confidence thing. It's you can still be compassionate and direct. Like you can, because if it's coming from compassion, you don't have to worry about, there's no worry, right? If it's coming from compassion, higher self isn't worried how the other person or people are going to perceive it. They're not, they trust that the guidance that's coming out is coming from a place of compassion for that person's highest and best, right? And we're talking about in this regard, like our with our clients that come to us for this kind of guidance, right? Like I'm not talking about just everyday like giving unsolicited guidance and advice to people. That's ego.
Very
um,
intrusive.
any unsolicited anything that you're giving to people and having an attachment to how they are taking it, that's all ego driven, right? But when the way we're talking about this, we're talking about clients that have come to us for guidance and they want truth, right? Their higher self wants the truth. Their ego is not always going to enjoy it. It will resist it. But Sam and I both had like a similar sort of experience recently with clients and being a little bit more direct. And same exact thing that she said, I experienced the same thing. I was like, because I was checking in with her after, I'm like, was that my ego or was that like my higher self? Because I don't want to do anything. And again, this would be ego. I don't want to do anything to like upset my clients, but that's having an attachment to how they like how they receive what I'm giving them, right? I shouldn't have an attachment because I know that I'm showing up for their highest and best and I'm coming from compassion. I know that. I know that about myself enough now. So if there's that little ego voice coming in and that's afraid, it's like that part Sam's talking about that just wants to be loved, that just wants to be accepted. That's the Maria part that has lived her whole life just love me, accept me, include me, want to be around me, like that little needy part of me, right? And I say that like free of judgment because it's legit like I feel for her, man. Like poor little thing. It's like, dude,
Need me, love me. I think
it's
that's a
like, oh
song,
God, how exhausting is that? It's
right?
exhausting, let me
It was
tell you.
both of our lives, our entire
Hence
life.
why I created a lot of disease in my body because that's an exhausting energy to carry in your everything. And I know a lot of people that will listen to this will resonate with that.
Yep.
We're all striving for that acceptance, right? So again, with this client situation that she and I both recently had, it was like we both checked in and we're like, no, we were direct because that's what they were asking us for, right? I'm not there to sugarcoat things sometimes when they need to break out of something that they're like in. And they've come to me. They've trusted me as their coach or their energy reader, to give them that, right? Like they're trusting me. So that means I'm to show up for their highest and best, which means I need to simmer my ego down sometimes and not be afraid to be direct because it's still coming from compassion. There's that self confidence again. There's being comfortable in my own skin as a coach, and also being that very clear, um, that clear hollow bone when I'm doing readings. Like I feel like I have an easier time because I'm so intentional when I set that intention to be the hollow bone that I'm not really feeling like it is ever really my ego coming in. I feel like, but when I'm doing coaching, I'm not channeling spirit the whole time. It's me, right? It's all parts of me. So I'm really using a lot of discernment through every session to make sure that um, I'm not giving unsolicited advice when it's not being asked, that I am really still showing up for them in the way that they need me to be there for them, right? It's about the session is about them, and I need to show up for them in the way that they have trusted me to do that for them. So yeah, ego can be very tricky. So I mean, for me, a very very simple place to start as we're all awakening in different stages, and we're in different, you know, parts of the process. Ego is old shit. It's your old way of being, basically. It's your old patterns, your old behaviors, your old thoughts, your limiting beliefs that are driving you to behave or choose certain things. Higher self is new guidance. So it feels scary because it's new, right? And the ego doesn't like the unknown, even though pretty much everything's unknown here. That's the beauty of it. Like you think of it in the unknown, you can create anything. It's the unknown. You get to create anything. But we've been programmed to be afraid of the unknown. But like none of us knows, right? None of us fully knows what is going to happen out there because energy is constantly shifting. So we as the collective and as individuals are constantly shifting what's happening out there. So there's about 8 gajillion billion, however many skin suits walking around on this planet. So none of us knows what's going to happen, right? Like, and so if you go to psychics that are very like, just be aware that energy is always changing. So we can read energy for a future timeline based on where the collective energy is at or where an individual's energy is at. We can read like the highest potential that they have based on where they're at, but they could turn around and make a free will decision the second they walk out of the reading and they've now altered their whole course, right? Does that make us a bad reader? No, not at all. And that's why it's also very important for us as practitioners to not have an attachment to our clients' outcomes or how they receive anything, because they're still their own individual and they're going to go and make their own choices, right? Like we're here to give them the guidance that they've asked for, but at the end of the day, we're all going to make our own choices. I digress a little bit here, but yeah, basically, ego is your old shit. Higher self, new guidance, a little scary, but I promise you, the more you start to trust it, amazing things start happening. And I know this business she and I have, it can't not be abundant because we are so aligned with our mission in the sense of like what our soul wanted to come down and do for ourselves and for humanity. It can't not be abundant. It can't not work out. Like it can't. So it's like, is it going to work out in the timeline that the ego would want? Probably not. But I don't really care because I'm trusting that it's going to happen in divine timing when it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
It's already
Word.
happening.
It is happening. Yep.
Already
And every time I do a reading, I say to people, so when they say, "Oh, what's the time? Like, what's time?" And I say, "So I don't believe in linear time. Spirit doesn't have a linear timeline. So I can show you, I can tell you the different potentials, and it's up to you to decide the potential is." And real quick, so I know Maria has to go to a coaching call. I, for my entire life, didn't think that I could do artwork, and I think we talked about this in something, but my inner child for the last 6 months, and Maria did another meditation. It was not last night, but 2 weeks ago, where I was like, oh, or the one I did, I don't know. My inner child was like, I need you to paint. I need you to paint. And I was like, ugh. Because one of my parts of my ego was like, I don't want to freaking paint. Like, we're not good at painting. It's a bothersome. I don't want to do it. But the part that needed to paint was the part that connected me more to my higher self. So I was like, you know what? challenge accepted, because the part of me that didn't want to paint was the part that rather have something that's more showy, to be more accepted, to be more oh, you don't think I can do this? I'm gonna do this. As in, like with nursing, right? Like I'm gonna, and then put myself on the back burner. The part of me that wanted to paint is part of my higher self, and is part of that inner child that's like, hey, we already shed that, like I know I have fear around things. So let's break out of this fear even more. Let's make a courageous imperfect action, and let's just paint F it. So I've been painting everything.
Everything.
Literally everything. Kevin's gonna come home and be like, what the F? But you know what? It feels freaking good. And
Doesn't
I'm
it?
having fun. There's literally no time happening. And I'm enjoying myself. I feel abundant. I feel healthy. I feel so good, because that's that same part of me that likes to dance, that likes to do weird breathing, that likes to cut up fruit weird and like throw it around and try and catch it in the mouth. It is the part of me that I have been shoving down. Whoa, that was insane. That I've been shoving down for so long. That is part of my higher self. My higher self is like, hey, I've been telling you to connect to this part for so long. Like, connect, connect, connect. It is the part that caused the conflict, that doesn't want you to connect. That's the ego, not this inner child that wants you to paint. And I'm like, I surrender.
Yep.
And I am so glad that I did. And because I didn't think that I could paint, because I always saw people that were artists having addictions and being depressed and sad, because of what I grew up with. And I realized that is such a limited belief, and is so not my reality, because like Maria said earlier, we are the creators of reality. We create our reality. We do. Nobody else.
Yep.
But we have to get over that thought that everybody else control over our reality. And when we release that thought and we say, higher self, come on in, we create our reality. And it is the most divinely beautiful, humbling thing, experience, and that is living.
Mhm.
I know Maria has to go. So, you galactic, multidimensional human beings, egos
Yes.
of all selves, we love you.
We love you. Thank you for listening. We'll probably do part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There'll be a lot of videos on ego and higher self, because it's pretty much part of the whole friggin' awakening. Internal, external. It's all about discernment of love and fear, ego and higher self. It's a constant process, but I can tell you it gets easier in the sense that the internal battle becomes quieter the more you start to trust the higher self. In the beginning, your ego is going to be wicked loud, because all of a sudden it's like, whoa, 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 like, you're not listening to me? What do you mean? Like, who's this chick you're listening to? Who's this dude you're following now? Like, I'm not failing this too much. It'll get very loud, and it will dangle carrots. Like, you finally make a decision, and then it
Or
will
a
go,
donut.
are you sure though? I mean, this is a very rational option we're giving to you right here. So, think about it. Think about it. Like, that's a
Yep.
perfect example of, I was like, I was set. Like, I was like, whoo, I felt free, even knowing I still had 3 months left at the job. Like, because energetically I had like released it. And then
Release
they
her.
came back with that, and I was like, oh shit, man. Like, now I don't know what to do. So, yeah, the ego will scream and strive for control, very, very loudly, as you start to become more aware of it. It's just because you're becoming aware of it. It's always been that way, but it's because you're hearing it now, and now you are starting to feel two different energies. So it'll get loud, but again, like we said, meet it with love. Don't resist it, because it's actually it resisting itself when there's any resistance. Because as Sam said, higher self is not in there arguing. He's just like, hey, I'm here, and whenever you want to listen, I've been guiding you since day one. So feel free whenever you want to listen. I'm here. But yeah, the ego eventually it starts to feel safe. It eventually starts feeling safer and safer, because we prove it to it. Like, as you follow the higher self and things work out, it's like what's the ego got to say now, huh? What do you got to say now, ego? I just proved to you.
And one last thing I just thought of, if it's with instant gratification,
Yes. That,
if you're if you're gratified, I don't know if that's a word, if you're gratified right away from something, probably not higher self, because our
true.
higher self is so much. So our right side of our brain is higher self, left side is that reptilian egoic that Maria was talking about. It is so much harder to access that right side if we've been living our entire life in the left side. So as soon as we have something that's like yes, without any fear or resistance in it, it's probably something that just fed that right side of the left side of your brain, that egoic conditioned self, and that's okay, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Being aware that that was instant. So now how do I prolong it? Because we want longevity, we want vitality, we want abundance, we want health. Health is that long, it's pushing past that fear and coming into, oh, this feels kind of uncomfortable. And then once you go into it, you're like, oh,
This
I'm
was
glad
the
I went
best thing
through.
ever.
Oh, yeah. You're like, I'm in a Marvel movie, I'm a unicorn and whatever, right? Instead of
Exactly.
that instant gratification, because instant gratification is feeding something that needs it right away. Your higher self doesn't need a damn thing.
And higher self, there's no time, right? To higher self, time doesn't exist. So it's just like we were saying before, where ego is like, right now, right? You better do it right now. Feed me right now. That right now, that, but that very like, that do it right now versus higher self just lives in the now. It's like all we have is the now, where like ego's like, you better do it right now because you don't know when your now is running out. That's the whole thing of it. So you don't know when your time's going to run out, so you better do it now. So feed me now with that instant gratification. Make that decision right now because you're running out of time. Where higher self's like, yo, you got all the time in the world. You're just gonna jump into another skin suit and do it again. So
Yep. You won't be loved if you don't do it right now. That's the ego. And
exactly. So
that's what we
yeah,
need to friend and love.
yes. So love all your parts, and we're here
We
for
love you.
you, and we'll give you more guidance as we are intuitively guided, and when we have
Yes.
time to do another video.
We love you guys, and really just have compassion for yourself, love yourself, use discernment, and pause. Pause, pause, pause before making decisions. Listen.
Yep.
Listen.
Breathe,
Listen.
pause, and give yourself credit because this is not easy work, my friends. So, love you.
We love you guys. Have a beautiful day, night, evening, morning, interworlds, galactic, whatever. We love you.